Hi everyone, my name is Yesenia and welcome back to my channel. Today I am filming my March TBR wrap up. It is currently April 3rd, Friday, April 3rd, and I was gonna film this last week, but I got really sick and I completely lost my voice, and my voice just came back like 100% today. So that's why I'm filming this. And my March TBR definitely had a lot of hefty books. There were 2 books over 500 pages. There were also like 2 books that were over 400 pages, but they were like this tall instead of like that tall. So I will go through all the books that I read during the month of March, and yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. So I read a total, let me just double check. Actually, I read 10 books. So 1 book is not on here, and that's because one of the books that I read was supposed to be a book that I was supposed to read during February, but I ran out of time during February because I added a book in the middle of I don't think it was the middle of the month, but I added a book in February. I did finish 1 book that I was supposed to finish in February and March. So I finished a total of 10 books. So I read a total of 8 physical books, and then I listened to 2 audiobooks. I'm just gonna go down the line in the order that I read them, and then I will talk about the audiobooks at the end. If you see me looking down, I'm looking down at my iPad because this is where like I don't have a Goodreads account. I never used Goodreads. I never knew it existed before. I started following booktubers on BookTube, and it is a fantastic way of keeping track of the books you read and how you rated them and everything. I've been reading my whole life and I never used Goodreads. So yeah, it may be something now since we're all in quarantine and I'm out of work right now because I am a school teacher and we are closed until April 30th, and it's April 3rd now. So I may start a Goodreads account and like add all the books that I've read so far that I can remember in there. But as of right now, I'm currently tracking everything in my digital planner on my iPad, and then I also, in my notes section, I have all the books that I've read this year so far. I have my TBR list here and all the ratings that I gave my book. So if you see me looking down, that is the reason why. I'm looking down at my iPad, just so that way I can, I don't have to remember, oh, did I give this book a 3 or was it a 3.5 or was it blah, blah, blah. It's written down here already, so that way I don't have to go like searching for it. So the first book that I'm going to talk about so the first book that I read at the beginning of March that I was supposed to read in February but did not get a chance to read in February is 4 Dead Queens by Ashe Princess. I'm so sorry. As a teacher, I should be used to seeing like weird names like this, but oh well. Anyway, 4 Dead Queens. This, if I'm a little iffy on the genres, I am so sorry. But if I am not mistaken, I think this is like a young adult mystery or like a young adult mystery thriller. Anyway, it was definitely a mystery. So this book was in one of my Alcrates, so this is an Alcrate book. And this book is about a girl, what's her name? Karali? Yes, Karali. So Karali, and she goes on this journey. She lives in this world called, I pronounce it differently than this booktuber. I think it's called Kadara. And Kadara is in 4 separate quadrants, and she lives in one of the quadrants. I forgot which one. I'm sorry. I read this book at the beginning of March, so that was about a month ago, so I'm a little... Anyway, and she's a master thief, and one of her missions, or like one of her assignments, was to steal a specific item from a specific person because it did serve a specific purpose, and she did manage to steal it. However, once she realized like the contents of this item and what it held and the secrets it held, it just as you can tell from the title, 4 Dead Queens. She saw the death of the queens because of there's a queen in charge of each quadrant in Kadara, and then the 4 of them like rule together, but they're in charge of their own quadrant. So and then that's how kind of like this whole mystery thriller took off. And I actually really enjoyed this book. I think I finished this book within like 3 or 4 days. It wasn't too long of a book. If I'm not mistaken, this is like a 300 or not 300, one over 300. So it's about a 400-page book. And then some people did say that they saw the twist at the end coming. I actually did not see the twist at the end coming. I had a suspicion when one of the queens started talking about like her past experiences. So I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy reading it. It was a great book. When I was reading it, it kind of reminded me of a cross between City of Satan Thieves, which was a book that I read in February because the main character is a master thief. And then it also kind of reminded me a little bit of Divergent, just because of this whole Kadara was separated into 4 different quadrants, and then each quadrant was in charge of something. So that's how like it kind of reminded me of that, and I really thoroughly enjoyed reading it. This book does unfortunately have duckled edges. I hate duckled edges. It was so hard to turn the pages. That is, however, a petty first world issue, which should not be an issue, but anyway, 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed reading this book, and I really enjoyed the mystery and the thriller in it. Okay, so that was the first book that I finished in the month of March. After I finished reading 4 Dead Queens is The Crown by Kira Cass. So for those of you who don't know, I think most of BookTube does know this, but The Selection is a series. It's a dystopian series, and this is the 5th book in the series. So this book kind of like it's done, and this was actually my shortest book on my TBR. It wasn't even 300 pages. This was a quick read. However, while I was reading it, I kind of like I felt my heart pumping and I didn't want to finish it because I wasn't sure if it was going to have a happy ending or not. There was a major twist in here that I did not see coming, and in the end we did find out what's her name, Edlin picked, and it was a good short read. It did leave me satisfied. However, I was satisfied, but I was just like, okay, so that's it now? Aww. I was a little sad. I felt as though the author, like Kira, could have maybe made the book just a teeny bit longer. Just a teeny bit. It didn't have to be like a 400 or 500 page book, but maybe like 350 pages or something, so that way there was a little more room for growth for the romance in here. That's just my personal opinion, but like I said, the ending did leave me satisfied, so I am pretty happy about that. And then I gave this book, The Crown, 4 out of 5 stars. So yeah, I mean, I did thoroughly enjoy reading it. I didn't like absolutely loved it. But yeah, so that was The Crown. This was the second book that I read during the month of March. Next book that I read, so the next book that I read after The Crown is Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. Okay, this book, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I, in all honesty, did not really enjoy reading this book. I was really confused by the magic system, and then somebody else, like I was watching somebody else's YouTube video about like, I think she read the top picks for the most disappointed books of 2019, and a lot of people voted for this book, and I can totally see why. It was extremely confusing. The magic system was extremely confusing, and then once I finally figured out the magic system, I didn't really approve of it because people actually had to cut themselves and use their own blood in a page out of a spell book in order to use their own magic, which I'm like, okay, I mean, I understand, but that's just doing too much. And I just did not enjoy reading this book. And then Alcrate has, there is another book. There is a sequel. It's called Ruthless Gods, and I did not pick it up. I have absolutely no interest in picking up the second book. That's how you can tell if I really like a book. I will go hunt down a sequel. If I'm not mistaken, Four Dead Queens is a standalone, but I can typically tell at the end of a book whether there's going to be a sequel or not. And this one, definitely. There were some surprise twists and plot twists and blah, blah, blah. But I just didn't like it. I actually might change my rating from 3 to 2.5. The reason why I think I initially gave this book a rating of 3 out of 5 stars is because, sorry if you can hear construction going on outside. I have my window open, and I kind of need to have my window open. It's just a little, and I needed some fresh air, and I also wanted some of the natural lighting to come in. But anyway, sorry, I'm just explaining the noise outside. But I did not enjoy reading this book. So I might change the rating to 2.5 because I did understand it. Like, I was able to follow the story better in Wicked Saints than in The Gilded Wolves. The Gilded Wolves, that book, I had absolutely no idea what the hell was going on. That book got a 2.5 out of 5 stars. This one I was able to follow the storyline a lot better. However, I just did not enjoy the storyline. Also heard some people on BookTube saying that, like, Emily A. Duncan, after her book was released, was, like, saying some things on Twitter. And here's the thing, I do have a Twitter account, but I don't use it. So I don't know what she's saying. But anyway, and then just another downside, deckled edges. Y'all know how I feel about deckled edges. We're not gonna go there. All right, so that was Wicked Saints. And in all honesty, I hurried up and I finished that book once I realized how sucky that book was. I'm sorry, I really hate saying that about books because somebody did put, like, their blood, their sweat, and tears into writing this book, and, like, that's their work, that's their pride, that's their baby. I think she is, if I'm not mistaken, this is her first book, so there are going to be more mistakes in somebody's first book because it's their first time writing. And then I've heard people say that, like, you know, authors, they do learn. I get it, but I didn't thoroughly enjoy it. So anyway, that was Wicked Saints. The next one that I read after Wicked Saints was, and this is why I knew this was next on my list, and this is why I really just wanted to finish Wicked Saints and be done with it. And Thunderhead! Oh my goodness. So I read Thunderhead after Wicked Saints, and oh my god, this book. Oh my god. So I gave the first book, so for those of you who don't know, Thunderhead is the second book in the Arc of a Scythe series. The first book is Scythe. This is a dystopian, and this world is, you know, set in the future where mankind has conquered all diseases. Nobody gets sick anymore. Nobody dies naturally anymore. So they have a system, and then obviously, you know, with conquering diseases and natural death, there is the problem of overpopulation. So in order to combat the overpopulation, they have scythes, and their sole job is to kill people, or they call it in this book to glean people. So they don't like call it killing, they call it gleaning people. So that is the whole premise of the series, the Arc of a Scythe series. So I read Scythe, which is the first book, in February, and I gave that book 5 out of 5 stars. I personally thought it was so well written, and the world building, I thought it was fantastic. It made perfect sense, and yeah, so I read the second book in the month of March. And this one, I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't quite give it 5 out of 5 stars. I did thoroughly enjoy reading it. However, oh my god, there was a major plot twist in the middle of the book. And it grossed me out. Like, legit grossed me out. Like, oh my god. Did Neil Shusterman go there? Yeah, he went there. He totally went there. And then this book left off on a huge cliffhanger. Like, huge cliffhanger. I did not see that ending coming. I don't think anybody saw that ending coming. And it just, I don't want to go into too much details about it, just because this is the second book in a series. So if I start talking about some of the details and some of the spoilers, it'll spoil the first book, and I don't want to spoil the first book for anyone. But I definitely recommend it. I do have the toll, but I'm not going to read the toll this month. I'm more than likely going to read it next month in the month of May. But yes, I definitely enjoyed reading Thunderhead, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I really do recommend the series. I am a little scared to read the toll, not because it's 600 pages, but just because a lot of people, they said it was a disappointing read. So I'm kind of nervous. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it. Anyway, time to move on. So the next book that I read was We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. I don't know how you pronounce her name. But this book, I really enjoyed reading this book. This is an Owlcrate book, and I actually thought that this was like a debut book, like this was a debut author. Apparently she did write a book before this, because I was like doing a little Googling, and because there is a sequel to this book. It's called We Free the Stars. When I got to the ending, I'm like, this is an unfinished ending. There's gonna be another book after this, and I was right. And I believe it comes out in May. So We Free the Stars is the second book, but We Hunt the Flame is about, that's her name. I can't remember the main character's name. Saphira, and she's a hunter, and because she is a girl, she disguises herself as a man, and then she is going on this journey, and there was this whole long journey. I'm gonna be very honest. I really did enjoy reading this book. What did I give it? 4? Yes, I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed reading the journey. I enjoyed the romance, and I enjoyed the women empowerment portion of this book, because there's another one on here. Actually, 2 other ones. Actually, the rest of them are all about women empowerment. And then I think March is like, oh, I forgot what it was called. It was like Women's Month. So yeah, it's okay. I really did enjoy reading. I'm not giving a good description of this book. What the hell is wrong with me today? I really did enjoy reading this book, and the main character, you know, she did go on a journey. Shoot, I forgot the reason for her journey. But I can see it in my head. I just can't transfer it to words. But trust me when I say, a lot of people have this, like they have this book, but they haven't read it yet. I would highly recommend you go and read this book. This is a great book. I love this book. Well, not love, but like I really did enjoy reading this book. I really do like it a lot. And I can't wait for the sequel to come out. We Free the Stars. And my birthday is coming up in July, and I may tell my dad. Yeah, so that could be an option for a birthday present. All right, next book after We Hunt the Flame. Skyward. This is a young adult sci-fi, and this was not an Owlcrate book. However, I did see like everybody and their mother on BookTube talk about Skyward, and I'm not really a big science fiction person. My dad is a science fiction person. However, since everyone really enjoyed reading this book, like they really thoroughly enjoyed it, I decided to hop on the bandwagon and just give it a try. And I really did enjoy reading this book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So for those of you who don't know, even though I feel as though everybody knows what this book is about, this book is about a girl named Spencer, and her nickname is Spin. And she lives in a world where being a pilot is like the top tier profession. Only like they only allow like a certain amount of people to go to flight school, and then an even smaller amount of people end up becoming pilots. But that was her dream. Her dad is a pilot, and she wanted to become a pilot so bad. Like that's the only thing she ever wanted to do. However, she faces, does it say it on the synopsis back here? Yes, it does say in the synopsis back here, so I have no problem saying it right now in my video. The story opens up with her, I think she's still 7 years old, so she's still very young, with her dad, and her dad got called in because I think that's what it's called, the Krell. So they constantly fight this group called the Krell to protect their land. And the last time she saw her dad went on a mission with his crew, and it practically ruined her chances of becoming a pilot because stories said like he turned his back on his crew and he was deemed a coward from that point on. So her dad was labeled a coward, which means that she is the daughter of a coward, and she still wants to become a pilot, but now it's that much harder because she's the daughter of a coward. And this just talks, the story is about her journey in becoming a pilot, you know, going to flight school, trying her best to prove that she deserves to be there and she deserves to be a pilot. And she is also trying her best to, what was I gonna say? And she's also like trying to clear her family name by becoming the best pilot. So this book, I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. Like I said, I'm not a really big sci-fi kind of person, but I really did enjoy reading this book. And I did buy Starsight, and I have not started it yet because I already have my April TBR set up. So typically how I set up my TBRs is in the order that I buy my books, which is why the toll is not on my April TBR, because that was a recent buy. And my 600-page monster book, I bought it in February. So that's why I want to read it first. So I typically go in the order in which I receive / buy my books. So this one, the second book for this one, Starsight, will more than likely be on my May TBR. So yes, I thoroughly enjoyed this one, 4.5 out of 5 stars. I would highly recommend it. And I'm sorry if my description of the story was a little all over the place. The next one is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. And I did enjoy reading this book. So this is actually a book about books. And what I mean by that is this book takes place initially in a library. The main character is Elizabeth, and her dream is to become a warden. And what I mean by warden is, so in these libraries, there are special books called grimoires, and the wardens protect the grimoires from becoming evil. I think the term that they use in here is when a grimoire becomes evil, it becomes a malefict. So they essentially become giant monsters that will destroy and ruin like cities if they get out of hand. So the purpose of a warden is to protect the grimoires and make sure that they don't become evil, because once they become malefics, evil, then they do have to be destroyed. Once a grimoire is destroyed, it cannot be recovered, and then sorcerers, those are their grimoires with their spells. They can no longer use those spells. I think, if I am mistaken, I'm sorry, but that is the impression that I got when I was reading this book. So that's what Elizabeth, the main character of this book, that's what she wants to be. She wants to become a warden. She is like a girl book. She's an all-around girl book. She loves her books. However, her journey gets derailed when a grimoire in her library does become a malefict, and then she destroys it, and then everything just goes downhill from there. And this book is a story about her, trying to clear her name and then trying to capture the person who actually did make that grimoire become evil. This is a standalone book, and this is the Alcrate edition. I think the original edition of this book is blue, and this is purple Alcrate. But I really enjoyed reading this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. There is no sequel, so it is a standalone, and I loved the main character for this book. She is sassy, she doesn't like to take anybody's crap, and that's like the kind of main character that I can, I can get on with that. Like the main character in Wicked Saints, Nadia, she was so annoying. Oh my god. So annoying. Anyway, Elizabeth was completely different, and like I said, I really did enjoy reading this book, and a lot of people on BookTube really enjoyed reading this book as well. I would definitely highly recommend this book. All right, so the last physical book that I read during the month of March is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. If I'm not mistaken, she is a debut author, I think. If she is not, I will insert it in here at the bottom. But I'm pretty certain she is a debut author, and this is her first book. So this book actually has a very interesting concept. So the main character, Maya Tamarin, is a girl who lives in a world where, you know, women are only expected to marry well. Like, that's the only thing that they're expected to do. And she wants to become a successful tailor. And being in a world where, you know, women are only expected to marry well, being a tailor is not an option for her. Like, they do not allow women to be tailors. Her dad is a famous tailor, and that's where, like, she gets her love of being a tailor from, making clothes, mending clothes, things like that. So the main concept of this book is, some people were like saying it's like Runway or something, or I don't know, but she goes away. So in this land, I don't want to say a king, but like the master of the land, his tailor dies, or one of like the tailor of a royal person dies, and now there's a slot for, you know, for another tailor, and her dad actually does get called to participate in this competition. However, at this point, her dad is in no way, shape, or form to participate in any kind of competition. So she does the one thing that can get her killed. She poses as her brother because they just said any male member of the family. She couldn't go because she's a female. So the person told her, either your dad or your brother has to be here by dawn, and then if they're not here, then we're leaving without you. So she poses as her brother to go to the castle to participate in this tailor competition, and it was just like, oh my goodness, such a very weird concept for a book, and she made it work. This is kind of a fast-paced book. It did take place over a period of like 5 or 6 months or something. I seriously thought that the competition was gonna last throughout the whole book. However, the competition only lasted about halfway through the book, and then the other half of the book, she went on a journey. I'm not gonna talk too much about the journey. However, like I said, I really did enjoy reading this book. It was such an odd concept. I've never seen a concept like that for a book before. So I'm like, huh, interesting. I think I gave this book either 4 or 4.5. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The second book in this duology, I think this is a duology. Yes, so it says here, book 1 in the Blood of the Stars duology. The second book for this duology comes out July 7th, and I told my dad, yeah, birthday present, hello. And it's called Unravel the Dusk. Is it called Unravel the Dusk? I'm pretty certain it's called Unravel the Dusk. There is a small excerpt in here of her book. Yeah, Unravel the Dusk. I haven't read it yet. I don't know if I want to read it because I don't know if it'll like break my heart or if it will, I don't know. Anyway, the book did kind of leave off on a cliffhanger and it left unfinished, which is why like I do want to read the second book. Anyway, so those were the 8 physical books. Those were the 8 physical books that I read throughout the month of March, and I listened to 2 audiobooks and finished 2 audiobooks during the month of March. One of them was Ashe Princess, and that book I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So Ashe Princess is about a girl named Theodosia, who was supposed to be the princess of her kingdom, and then it was taken away by a tyrant because the tyrant killed her mom, and then the tyrant essentially like captured Theodosia, and Theodosia is like a prisoner in his castle, and she is the person who like he uses to constantly remind everybody who is in charge. This book was very bloody. This book was very gory. I was not expecting some of those descriptions in that book. I'm like, okay. So it was a very good book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and this made me so mad. So the narrator of this book, for those of you who don't know, in the month of February, I listened to a book called King of Fools, and which is the second book in the what is it? I forgot the name of the trilogy, the Shadow Game series. I think that's what it's called, the Shadow Game. So the first book is Ace of Shades. So King of Fools, I listened to it on audiobook, and it was the same narrator for 17 and a half hours, and it drove me nuts, and that brought down like my reading experience for that book. Little did I know, when I was picking a new book after King of Fools, I picked Ashe Princess. I didn't realize it was the same narrator. So the same narrator who narrated King of Fools also narrated Ashe Princess. I'm like, crap, so I have to listen to her for another 13 and a half hours. It's not that she's a bad narrator. Honestly, if I had listened to Ashe Princess before King of Fools, I would have thought, you know, she's a very good narrator. She narrated Ashe Princess extremely well because there was only one perspective. King of Fools was 3 perspectives. I think that also like brought down my reading experience. Like I think that was the main reason why this wasn't like a 5 out of 5 stars instead of a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm just tired of listening to that narrator. I do want to finish off the trilogy because I do want to know what happens next, because the first book kind of left, I'm like, whoa, that happened. Okay then, we're gonna go there. It did leave off on a cliffhanger, and like I said, I do want to know what happens next. However, I don't want to listen to Lady Smoke. I would prefer to read the book, but we are currently on lockdown in the state of Illinois, and I don't know how the hell I'm gonna get a hold of Lady Smoke. And then I think the last book is Ember Queen, so I think those books are just gonna have to wait until we are off lockdown. And the last audiobook that I finished during the month of March is Nevernight. Oh my goodness, I don't know where to begin with Nevernight. So for those of you who don't know, Nevernight is an adult fantasy. And I emphasize adult fantasy because there are so many explicit scenes in this book. It's crazy, crazy. The book starts off with an explicit scene. I'm not gonna talk about the explicit scene at the beginning of the book. I will let you guys, if you want to figure it out for yourselves, either by listening to the audiobook or reading it. I think that listening to this story, oh my goodness, like brought it to life even more. The narrator for this book, oh my god, he like really emphasized certain scenes, and it just really brought like the whole thing together in a very weird sense. Like those explicit scenes, he emphasized those explicit scenes, and it just made it even sound more explicit. I personally feel that if I had read the book, I would have had a totally different reading experience than if I had listened to it. Let me go back to the description. So for those of you who don't know, Nevernight is an adult fantasy about a girl named Mia. At the beginning of the story, like her whole family was killed, and she, you know, she wants to get revenge. So she goes to a school to train, learn how to become an assassin. And so yeah, so it's essentially like this is just her journey on getting to this assassin school, and then training and learning how to become an assassin so that way she can get revenge on her family. And this was a 20-hour audiobook, and I listened to this whole audiobook on 1x speed, so at the normal regular speed. I do not know how booktubers can listen to audiobooks on 2x speed. Sometimes I even struggle listening on 1x speed. So for those of you who don't know audiobooks, you can actually speed it up, so that way the narrator it's going at a much faster pace, and then you can finish the audiobook a lot sooner than the actual time it took to narrate the whole thing. Hey guys, editing Yesenia here. So I'm currently editing my March TBR, and I did not realize that I completely deleted a clip that I was going to use because I thought I was deleting a clip that I was going to use, and I still can't believe I did that. So yes, this is editing Yesenia, that's why I look like this. But the portion that I deleted, I was just pretty much saying that I'm very proud of myself during the month of March for reading 10 books, and I just, was just asking, hey, what did you guys read during the month of March? And I hope you read a lot of good books during the month of March, but I'm still very, very upset at the fact that I deleted that whole clip. Oh my God. So right now it's gonna cut to the ending, and thank you guys so much for watching my TBR. I hope you guys are staying at home. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you guys are, doing well and staying well, and we will get through this together. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.